There he goes. One of God's own prototypes. A high-powered mutant of some kind never even considered for mass production. Too weird to live, and too rare to die.
I've made a couple videos here and there, short videos about this, but I want to make one comprehensive long video kind of explaining the condition, the different training styles I've tried, the different supplements I've tried, the different diets I've tried, the different, just everything that I've tried that I like, that I didn't like, and then of course go over the condition and how I think it may or may not have actually affected the outcome of all of this. So stay tuned. So basically, I just have cerebral palsy with dystonia, which just means that my motor cortex doesn't exactly tell the muscles exactly what I want them to do. So coordination is difficult, balance is difficult, and then the dystonia kind of makes my legs stiff. So I can stand with them and stuff, but like trying to move them around is hard because they're always kind of extended in a way. So that mainly is just in the legs. It's a little bit in my left arm, and I honestly feel like because of that, my left arm's a little bit stronger, which I think's interesting. There's definitely less coordination going on. But yeah, other than that, I don't think it has really affected a whole lot. All right, so this is when I started wanting to work out because my arms were incredibly thin and weak, and it was honestly detrimental to me, like trying to get around and doing things because I couldn't really lift my own body weight. So one of the first things I wanted to do was be able to do pull-ups and push-ups and stuff like that. But of course I couldn't do them. I remember measuring my arms, they were 7 inches round, like flexed, which is just abysmal. And yeah, so at this time I think I was like 115 or something. But with the cerebral palsy, you need strength to get in and out of the chair and to get in and out of beds and chairs and all kinds of stuff like that. So just having basic strength is really important. And before we get too far into the video, so my version of cerebral palsy is it affects my legs and my left hand. That's it. So the rest of me is perfectly fine. I do have to take a medication that is basically a muscle relaxer. So I don't really know if that has an effect on my gains or not. It might, but I don't think it probably does. So get that out of the way. But anyway, this is probably my first like legitimate physique update. This is after a couple of years of at least trying to lift. At the time, I think I was pretty much just doing push-ups like every other day or potentially every day. I don't really remember. And then I was doing curls. I didn't even know that back muscles were a thing. So I definitely wasn't training that. And I definitely wasn't training my shoulders. But even after this being 2 years, I still wasn't really making any progress. Like I've maybe put on a couple of pounds of muscle, but I'm still under 120 here. Now this is about 6 months after that photo, and you can see there's a little bit more chest size going on here. The abs are a little bit thicker. Still, the arms are pretty stick thin. Shoulders are getting a little bit rounder. I was maybe like 125. Definitely wasn't 130 yet. Still barely any progress. And this is almost 3 years into it at this point. So I just really didn't have my nutrition in check, my supplements, nothing really was going right for me. Now, this is another 6 months after that. I'm starting to get a little bigger. I think I finally was 133 in this photo. Now, this was right before I graduated high school. I started watching like YouTube fitness and like actually doing better training splits, trying to eat protein. So I made a lot more progress here. This is probably another, so I was 18-ish here, and my arms, I think my arms got up to maybe 13.5 inches or so, way bigger than 8, so improvement there. Now this is a year after that, so I was 19. I had a full year to like optimize training, optimize nutrition, all of that. This is actually going into the quarantine. I put on a ton of muscle that year. I was probably about 155, maybe pushing 160 here. Good amount of muscle. I was actually benching. I still can't do pull-ups. Mind you, I barely trained my back. I was all about chest, shoulders, arms, forearms, traps. That was about it. And I really tried bulking. I did all kinds of crazy bulking strategies. I talked about before on here. I would have a peanut butter and banana sandwich every morning, and then I would make 8 espressos, mix it up with milk, chug that with protein, and then go work out for like 3 hours, and then come back upstairs, have more protein shake, and then I would make this gigantic bowl that was, so I'd get tomato soup, popcorn, leftover steak like slices, olive oil, just a bunch of other random stuff, and just throw it all in a blender and blend it up and drink it. It's probably like 3,000, 4,000 calories. I have no idea, but I did that. That helped a lot with this. So that was pretty intense. And then the quarantine happened, and I was stuck inside for 6 months straight and worked out every single day, all day. So during this time, my training was very dialed in. I was really into like powerlifting stuff, so I was doing a lot of 5x5s and 5-3-1s, and then I was still doing the 10x10s, which looking back on it, I probably shouldn't have done those because it's just too much volume and it's too hard to recover from. But I made huge strength gains during this time. I remember when quarantine first started, I could only do maybe 4 or 5 dips, and then by the end of it, I was doing 5 sets of 5 with 50 pounds strapped to me, and I was benching at this time, I think 240 or 245, I can't quite remember, but pretty good there. Still couldn't do pull-ups. I did start doing dumbbell rows finally, so I was training my back a little bit, but still not nearly enough there. And I was also doing a lot of overhead pressing with dumbbells and tricep extensions with dumbbells. The tricep extension was pretty strong here. I think I was doing the 40s or the 45s for like sets of 10, which later I get a lot higher than that, but that's pretty solid. My arms finally got to 16 inches here. Now, I know there's extra body fat and everything else, but the extra, or the beginning of quarantine, they were like 14.5. So I put a good 1.5 on them during this bulk time. Then I went back to college, and I didn't have access to the same amount of food and protein and all that. So I ended up losing about 10 pounds pretty much right off the bat, but I did maintain my 16-inch arms. So I guess I accidentally cut, if you will. And during this time, I finally started doing more back work. I still couldn't do a pull-up, but I was doing lat pull-downs, rows. I was still doing dips. This was kind of when I first started doing the weighted. Well, I guess I was already doing weighted dips, but I was doing weighted push-ups too. I was doing arms. I was doing all kinds of stuff. The gym at the college was pretty good, and I used the hammer strength machines a lot. But again, I did lose a lot of weight there, so my strength, my total strength went down, but like my weighted dip strength still was increasing. I remember I did 90 pounds for one. I think I did 80 something. I think I did 85 for two. But yeah, body weight probably like 155 here. All right, so this is a pretty cool photo. When I went home for winter break, I think I had my dad take this in the basement. And again, this is my unintentional cut from the previous bulk. I was still like 155, maybe 160, but probably not 160. It's pretty much same as the last photo, doing the same stuff. I was doing more rows. My forearms definitely grew a little bit. This is probably the leanest I've been while still holding on to some muscle tissue. But right after this, I injured my right shoulder and lost a lot of gains because I couldn't do any pressing for a couple of months. It was the bicep tendon had tendinosis, which is worse than tendinitis. So I just couldn't do anything without it just hurting like terribly. So had to take time for that. But this great photo here. There's a few more, but I'm just gonna show this one. I still couldn't do a pull-up, which really doesn't make sense now that I'm looking back at these photos. Like, I don't understand why. Because I was training my back at this point. But here we go. All right, so a couple months later, this is where I lost a lot of gains because I couldn't work out. The shoulder thing took forever to heal. I got some cortisone injections, and that ended up fixing it, at least for a while. But at this time, the only thing I could do, I think, was the dumbbell row. So I was still doing that, and I was still making progress with that, but everything else pretty much had to, fly out the window. Now, the next picture here, a few months after I got the injection, so all the muscle, all the strength came back. I remember feeling almost like I had newbie gains again. I mean, obviously I lost gains, but I ended up with more gains than I had before, which the time off, I don't know if it was the time off or what. I was about 20 here, so my hormones are still pretty good, I think. But yeah, I was feeling really, really full, really pumped. Like my pumps were better than they've ever been. I don't know if I just had like more insulin sensitivity or something, but anyway, there's a period of like 3 months after that where I pretty much benched every day or every other day, made a lot of shoulder and chest gains here. Now, I remember taking this. So this is when I moved back to college again after summer break. I think I was a junior. Yeah. And then this was just a really good photo. I remember taking this and thinking like, oh my God, I don't actually look like that. Because at this point, I was about 160. I was about 5 pounds up from like 6 months prior to this. But this was just a really, really, really good photo of my arm. I didn't actually look that big. But at this point, I was experimenting with training arms every day. I still couldn't do a pull-up. still doing the dips. And I think at this point, I was really just doing dips, curls, tricep extensions. I ditched all the shoulder work, even though my shoulder looks insane here. I don't think you really need shoulder isolation if you go heavy with your compounds anyway. So, I honestly haven't trained shoulders in years. So that's physique here. And then fast forward a few months, this is when I'm 21. And in this photo, this is when I officially got an 18.5-inch arm. I know it doesn't look as crazy as the other photo, but they were about 2 inches. No. Yeah. 2.5 inches or 2 inches bigger. I don't know. But when you bulk, you kind of lose the definition. So anyway, this, I hit my best dips. I dipped on extra 115 for one. But at this point, so my first shoulder injury was all healed up and better. And but I tore my labrum, so that set me back a lot. I remember seeing an article or something that was saying if you trained one side of your body, your other side would get like 25 or 35% of the benefit. So it was my right shoulder that I hurt. So I just started training my left arm, and it was really weird. My left arm grew a ton, and like the strength was gaining like no other time ever. It was really weird. But I didn't really see any of the gains you're supposed to see on the other side. So I ended up with a lopsided physique. This is the craziest photo I could find of my huge left arm. The right arm was like half of this size. It was really weird. Just being lopsided, it was a terrible idea. I wish I could go back and not have done this. And I was also bulking like really hard at this time. I just kind of got fat and got like a giant left arm, which was not a good idea at all. But my left arm's still it's like it's permanently huge, like compared to my right arms to this day. It's way like you can see the muscle insertions better, the shoulders bigger, the triceps bigger. It just looks better. Now this is when I moved to Florida, and I did an experiment, like a cheat curl experiment, and I just went super crazy heavy on my curls. Like I was doing like 60-pound dumbbells, and my it kind of worked. It honestly trained my upper back more than it trained my biceps, but I like doing random experiments like that to just see what would happen. My left arm was still bigger than my right, but it was catching up. I stopped like just spamming my left arm because my shoulder was feeling better. So this is me super pumped up and sunburnt in the bathroom at the gym that I worked at when I first moved here. This is when I first became a personal trainer and all that. Arms were catching up. The left arm was shrinking down a little bit because I wasn't going crazy with it. Still looked pretty good. At this point, I was 168, 170-ish, I think, which is pretty much what I am now. At this point, I'm 23, so, pretty solid. I officially was able to do one pull-up in this photo, just one. All right, so this photo was before I started the channel by a month or two. I think I was just like 164, 165. I had definitely shed some fat. Looking pretty okay here. My strength definitely wasn't peaked, but, I looked pretty good. But, that's not what I care about. I only really care about performance. So, is what it is. I think it honestly helped the channel a little bit because you tend to get more views and stuff if you're a little leaner. So, I'm sure it helped a little bit. So this was like 3 months ago, maybe. Probably about 169, maybe 170 here. Working the back, working the grip, really prioritizing the grip. I got really bad tendonitis in my brachioradialis, so I have to do all these different wrist exercises and things before my actual lifts. So I think it is helping, and it's making my forearms bigger, so that's cool. Yeah, so my pull-ups pretty much peaked here. Now this was just the other day. I don't know how to hit poses, but I think here 174. So about a year and a half ago, I couldn't really do more than one and a half with sloppy form. Now my best is 29 pretty clean looking reps, and I attribute most of this progress to this chain setup I have. It's basically reverse chains, so you wrap it around your neck, and then I like doing partial reps, so only the top part of the range of motion, because I discovered that's where I'm weakest at. You can also bend your knees up to activate your core more, which transfers a lot to regular wide grip pull-ups. And I know what people are going to say, ego lifting this, ego lifting that. But honestly, if you're that hyper focused on form, it's just as much ego lifting to have perfect textbook form than it is to actually experiment with different ranges of motion. With this, you can really isolate your brachioradialis and your arm, your brachialis, which I found that was weak. You can also use blood flow restriction straps to add even more arm stimulus because, again, my arms were the weak point in my pull. My back was very strong, still very strong, obviously. So I think doing partial reps in the top range of motion really, really, really helped my pull-ups. In addition to that, doing static holds at the top also helped me out a lot and increased my regular pull-up reps significantly. And I'm well aware that it looks pretty goofy, but if you let go of your ego and just try having basically bad form with this, as some people would say, you will see great results. I've heard quite a few people talk about how they're worried they're going to lose their gains if they switch to calisthenics and all this. And it's really just not true at all, because every calisthenic movement is a compound movement, and you will honestly most likely get more out of the calisthenics because you're going to be doing more compound lifts because you're not wasting time on isolation lifts like bicep curls and tricep push downs and lateral raises. And the thing you have to understand is that it's very hard to lose muscle mass. So if you've spent years building up your arms, your biceps, your shoulders, all this stuff doing isolation lifts, and then you just do compounds for a while, you're not losing anything because you're still using all those muscles to do these lifts. And it honestly might make pull-ups, dips, push-ups, handstand push, all that stuff easier because you already have a base of muscle mass and you're not starting from scratch. I think you can go a lot further with calisthenics if you have a background in bodybuilding or something like that. Powerlifting, your arms might be lagging still, so that might not work as well, but it's still definitely worth a shot to do at least a calisthenics training phase for 3, 4, 5, even 6 months. And if you don't want to drop certain isolation exercises, you can still do them. Just swap out lat pull downs for pull-ups, swap out bench press to weighted dips. Just make little changes slowly over time and just kind of see if you like it. And if you like it, just keep going, keep switching stuff out, drop the isolations, just see how far you can take it. And also, people seem to be concerned about bulking and cutting with calisthenics and how it's harder and whatever. But really, it's the exact same thing. The only thing you have to remember is that if you are bulking and your pull-ups are staying the same, you're technically improving because you're lifting more weight over time. Something else I'd like to touch on before I finish up the video, through this whole journey, I've had tons of shoulder issues, labrums, rotator, like the whole shoulder is just messed up. So the past 2-ish months, I've been messing around with behind the neck pull-ups because I'm doing this whole calisthenics phase, and doing the behind the neck pull-ups and using the blood flow restriction straps and actually going back to the overhead pressing, my shoulders feel phenomenal and I'm actually able to press again. So I'm really excited to see where I can take my pressing, because I can finally get back to lifting heavy benches and dips and all that kind of stuff. So stay tuned. I'm sure there's going to be a lot of progress with that, and there's a lot of muscle memory there because I used to do it all the time. So with that being said, I'll see you in the next video.